short video about card games in Tabletop Simulator. I'll show you a few tips and tricks for ease of play and how you can make your life easier while navigating this platform. So Tabletop Simulator is basically a sandbox for any type of board game that you would like to play. This one is an all-shows table with some cards, a score sheet and some coins. I'll be focusing mainly on the cards and how to handle them with ease. So first thing to know is that you can draw a rectangle, selection rectangle around objects. So let's say we select all these cards, and if we press G for grouping them together, they will be all put in one packet. To pick up an object, you click with the left mouse button or just the touchpad. You click and press with one finger, and you can move around the packet. If you want to move only one card, remove one card from a packet of cards, once you click the left mouse button, you immediately start dragging away the pointer like this. So this will mean that only one card will be removed from the packet. Now if you click and hold, you can see that the whole packet is lifted after half a second or so. So if you want to move more than one card, you just make sure that you see this little animation before you start moving. So if you want to move the whole packet, you click, wait a half a second, then you can move all the cards. If you want to just pick up one card, you click and move like this. Okay. You can use two fingers to zoom in or out, or you can use the mouse wheel for the same function if you're using a mouse. So G for grouping together cards. You know the way to move around the deck, and the other important shortcut is the key F for flip. So you can use that to flip a whole deck or just flip a card. You can flip a card or deck that you are currently moving around, or it's enough to just point at something and press F. You don't have to pick them up. The flip command will be delivered regardless. Okay, now to shuffle a deck, you just pick up the whole deck and shake it a bit until you see this animation of the cards spinning around. Or alternatively, you can press the key R. So you R for randomize, and it will be shuffled that way too. Now to deal cards to players, the easiest way is and the most precise way is to right click on the pack of cards, or use a two-finger click for touchpad users. And then there's this deal option. If you hover over the deal, there comes a little color wheel with the various seat colors. My color is white in this demo, and you can see the other colors from the name of the other player. So if somebody sits down to red, green or blue seat, their name will change to that color. For this demonstration, I'm just gonna deal to these empty seats basically. So right click, dealer wheel, then you can deal to blue, let's say 3 cards. You click this section 3 times. Alternatively, you can press a number. So the number, let's say I press 3, then it will, after a short pause, it will deal 3 cards to those seats. Okay, so you can repeat that if you want to deal more cards. Let's say 3 more cards to each player, and that's it. Now if you right click and deal to all, it will deal to all seats by default. You can change the settings to only deal to seats where a player is actually sitting, but it still won't help you if you are playing a 3-player game but there's 4 of you with the dealer sitting out, because the dealer is still sitting in one of the dedicated seats. So if you use this option, you will deal to players who you don't want to deal to in this hand. So I recommend using the color wheel with either number of clicks or pressing a number, any number. You can even do 2-digit numbers. So if you want to deal 10 or more cards, you can press 1 0 in rapid succession, or even 1 1. In this case, if you want 11, then it will deal all these cards. So for certain games where you deal a large packet of cards at once, you can use that. Now that's one tip. Now about when we play a trick. So let's say these cards are played, 3-4 player game. Then one way to collect the trick is again using the selection rectangle, and then pressing G to group and F to flip. For the flip you have to actually point at the packet, so make sure, and then you drag the trick packet to the appropriate player. Another way to collect the trick is you just pick up one of the cards that are part of the trick, and you just hover over one of the other cards and press on a touchpad solution. You press T. T acts as a right click, so you can use if you're using a mouse, you're holding down the left mouse button and then you just click the right mouse button over a card you want to pick up. So you can do it quite quickly. Let me show you again. So we have like 3 or 4 tricks, right? So we pick up one card and then we collect the trick, flip, that's it. So that's another useful feature. Now when you're playing a point trick taking game where the value of the cards that you captured matters, you can either spread out your trick pile by right click spread, and it will be spread out like this. Now the only drawback of this method is that with certain cards like Hungarian cards, you'll have to really know the cards to recognize them from these slivers. There's no setting to change how widespread the spread should be. If you're playing with regular cards that have corner indices, then it's not a problem. So if you're using this method and the cards are not easy to recognize, then you can hover over any card and press down the Alt or Option key, depending on if you're using a Windows or a Mac machine. So if you do that, you can just slide over the cards and add them together, add the point values together like this. So that's one option. Other one which I like to use is you pick up the pack. Now I'm gonna demonstrate it with the touchpad, but with the mouse it's even easier. So pick up the pack of your tricks, press down Option, and keep holding the Option or Alt key, and then press T for simulated right click. That will mean that you will drop the bottom card from the pack that you're holding, so you can add together your cards or card values that way. That's probably a bit quicker, but you can use the spread option. Alternatively, you can use the one by one dragging option, but that might be a bit slower solution. It's up to you really. What else? There's a slight trick with playing the cards to a trick which have no usefulness, but it might look flashy. It's the card spin. So you might have seen me spin cards around like this. That's a setting that by default it's set to 15 degrees. That's the amount of rotation. One press of the letter Q to the left or E to the right will rotate any item basically. So I like to set that to 90 degrees for card games because it's a more useful rotation degree and you don't need that granularity. So using this rotation Q or E button, if you want to simulate just flicking a card to the table, you pick up a card from your hand. You normally would just put it in the middle. Alright, so with this motion you basically do the same motion of dragging and then releasing in the middle of the table, but during this motion you just press the E or the Q key once. Alright, so you can do this little motion. And that will result in these little flourishes. Many objects in the game can be looked at closer with the Option or Alt key. If you press it down, and as long as you keep pressing it, you'll see a close-up of the object. So if you have a document, you can look at it like this. You can also use the mouse wheel or the touchpad scrolling to flick through the pages. That's one option to look at a document, for example. Other solution is clicking this pop out to screen button, which will take half your screen, but you don't have to keep pressing any buttons, so it will remain there. If you want to take a more thorough read of a document or something, you can use this. Then you can close the document when you are done. There's a toolbar on the top left which has some useful tools. So the first is the grabbing tool, which you will use most of the time. The second one is the drawing tool. If you want to draw something, note down a score or anything, you can use a free line or a line that like a straight line or free draw, or even some circle or other box, other shapes. I mostly use the free line, and in some games I use the circle and the straight line. This is the erase option, so you just keep it held down and you can delete your lines. You can even change the color of your drawing, so you need to click apply for red. Let's say we change back to white. You can delete this one and you can draw. Now if you want to draw something on a score sheet, let's say, I would recommend zooming in. You can then draw on it. and you can use this feature. And once you've done writing down something, you just press the space bar and it will reset your camera view to the default view. There's another option if you really need the in an access all the time to a score sheet, for example. You can use the in-camera picture-in-picture mode. So you right click or double finger click on a touchpad, picture-in-picture mode, then you'll get a little camera. So you using that camera, you zoom in on something, let's say the score sheet, right? Okay, so you can change the camera view by pressing the P for perspective key. So first person, the top-down camera is most useful for these scenarios. So I zoom in on the score sheet in a ideal or optimal way. Let's say something like this, and then I click the little lock on the top right. It will lock this view, so if I move the camera away, it will remain there. So now I'll just press space, press P again for the third person camera. That's the best I find to play. And then you'll have a little window where you can write things as if you were pointing here. So you don't need to point here at the small area. You can use this camera view, and that might be something that you find useful. And that's about it for some basic tabletop simulator tips and card game hints. Thanks for watching.